This episode is sponsored by Factor. Between back to school and busy schedules, it can be tough finding time to cook. But with Factor, you can still get delicious chef-crafted meals delivered straight to your door, no matter how hectic your schedule gets. They've got a ton of variety from Asian-inspired meals to Mediterranean diet options to great seafood like salmon and shrimp. And the best part is, it's actually good for you. In fact, 97% of customers say that Factor helped them live a healthier life. So get started at factormeals.com/command50off and use code command50off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year.
Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Command Zone podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Weeks.
How's it? It's Josh Lee Kwai.
And today we are visiting with the team talking about our favorite decks that we built in 2025. Now, the year isn't over, but there have been a lot of legends so far, and we wanted to check in with everybody.
So many legends these days, it can be hard to keep track of. I like hearing what other people built because sometimes it reminds you like, oh yeah, that was a cool one that I forgot about.
That did come out this year. Plus, we have a huge team that's full of Commander fans that are always building really interesting stuff that don't get on camera to you as fast as we'd like them to. Like, you get excited about a deck and it doesn't show up on extra turns until, sometimes a year later, depending. Yeah. So we want to give them a chance to talk directly to you about what they're building right now and hopefully give you some very cool ideas in the meantime.
Yeah, maybe you'll get inspired.
Yeah. Without further ado, let's turn it over to the Command Zone team and hear about their favorite decks. All right, everybody, we're getting started with Jordan Pridgen. You've met him before in pre-con upgrade guides, but behind the scenes, he's a...
Guy!
I'm
a writer-producer here on the channel.
Jordan, what deck did you bring for us today?
So I brought a deck, the background pairing of Volo, Itinerant Scholar, and Folk Hero.
Introduce us, just in case they haven't heard.
Okay, so the basic idea of this deck is that it is a typal anti-typal deck. And when I read the cards, it'll become clear why. So, Volo, Itinerant Scholar is 2 and a blue for a legendary creature, human wizard, 2/3. And it says, when Volo enters the battlefield, create Volo's Journal, a legendary colorless artifact token with hexproof, and whenever you cast a creature spell, note one of its creature types that hasn't been noted for this artifact.
Volo discovers a new thing.
Yes, I actually bring a little booklet with me and I write down the things.
Is it a scroll?
No, it's a little notebook I have, but I gotta find me a scroll. But then he has the ability to, and tap, draw a card for each creature type noted for target permanent you control named Volo's Journal.
Okay. So you cast a bunch of creatures with different creature types.
Yep.
And then you activate Volo to read his journal, and he learns for every creature he's seen.
Exactly. Then he draws cards for each of them. And when I do it, I like to go, I, Volo, have met a Vidalcan, and a sheep, and a human, and a glimmer. And just like go through the whole list of everything.
If you've met Volo in Baldur's Gate, or if you know Baldur's Gate lore, you know why.
Yeah. And I kind of like being obnoxious sometimes, so, But he also has choose a background, so I chose a background. And the background I chose is Folk Hero, which is 1 and a white for a legendary enchantment background. And it says, commander creatures you own have, whenever you cast a spell that shares a creature type with this creature, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn.
Okay, so we sort of have two contradictory things here.
Yes.
We have one book that wants you to see a lot of different creature types, and then we have this background that wants you to see specifically 2 creature types. Because Volo's a human and a wizard.
Well, and that's kind of what I realized, is that human wizard are very generic creature types.
Yes.
And luckily, there are tons and tons and tons of creatures out there that are either a human or a wizard, and then also have another creature type. So if, for instance, I play a bird wizard, which I like to do, because Click and Sky Mage is good in this deck, then I get to draw a card from Folk Hero because it's a wizard, but I get to note down that I met a bird. That I met a cute bird that flies
what a
around.
Cute journal he has going on. Okay, I love this. So that's an overview of the deck. What kind of bracket would you say this lives in?
This is a pretty firmly bracket 2 deck. I have no game changers in the thing. And the truth is that the strategy is not super powerful a lot of the time. It's not like particularly focused or optimal.
You draw a lot of cards, but it's very incremental, where it's every time you cast a creature, you can draw one more card, but you have to pay 2 to do that. So it's not all super explosive.
Well, and I play a lot of creatures that are sort of toolbox, maybe not necessarily played in a lot of decks. Like I play like Giant Killer because it's a 1-mana human peasant.
Nice.
And I'm like, oh.
Today I met a peasant.
I met a peasant. Some exotic thing out in the world. He had no money, but he could kill giants.
That's awesome.
And it lets you do like scheming fence and all these things that are like, oh, this is just a cool little ETB effect on a citizen of some sort and things like that.
Yeah, it lets you run just a lot of cards that check a very specific box. I like to build decks like this.
And don't get me wrong, like the deck wins.
Yeah.
It's won a decent number of the games I've played, but it's just not like super competitive or anything.
Sure. Yeah. So what made you build this pairing? What drew you to this?
Well, I love Volo.
Yeah, me too.
Like Volo's a character who connects with me on he just loves being bombastic, as I do. And I was kind of looking into like Volo pairings, and I actually had an exchange on Twitter when Baldur's Gate came out, and I was like, these kind of work together. And people were like, there's just not enough options for it. And I was like, I think maybe there are.
Yep.
And it sort of became a Scryfall building challenge to do this. Kind of what I did is I went into Scryfall and I like set up some very specific, searches to make sure that I find everything in the colors that was either a human or a wizard, but not both, and any other type. And then every time I added a card to the deck, I would subtract that creature type from the search. So it got smaller and smaller and smaller.
Sure, that's cool.
Which was pretty fun and led me to a lot of cards that I kind of like hadn't seen otherwise. To be fair, I have, I think, 3 creature types that I duplicate in it. Like I've got
not
some
perfect.
I've got some extra advisors. I have some extra soldiers, and I think I have 2 toads.
You also mentioned that you have a couple of cards that don't check the folk hero box, but are pretty good in the Volo box.
Yeah, things that were for whatever reason, like win conditions or really help with the strategy, I made an exception for. A great example is I put Watcher in the water.
Oh, that's a great thing to write in your little creature book, though.
Yeah,
I met a
kraken. But like Watcher in the water basically makes you 1/1 blue tentacle creature tokens whenever you draw a card in an opponent's turn. So if I've got 6 creatures in the journal and I activate it on someone else's turn, it makes 6 1/1s, which can stun things when they die. So it's a great way to, set up blockers and things like that. Psychosis Crawler.
Yeah, for sure. Not a human or a wizard. It's a Phyrexian horror, which will add to the book, but also just gives you a pretty tidy win con in a deck that could be pretty dirtily.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so what are the cards in the deck that make you really excited when you draw them? What are your favorite ones to see?
A lot of the ones I've mentioned are like kind of in that I like just playing all these little toolbox, like scheming fences and stuff. Deputy of Detention. I had a game where I was playing against a Heir Apparent deck. And I met
a rabbit and a rabbit and a rabbit and a rabbit and a rabbit. It doesn't trigger on your opponent's card.
No, but I had a Deputy of Detention, and it was like, exile this creature, and all other creatures share a name with it, and I was like, oh, okay, keep playing rabbits.
I have a 1 wizard answer to this huge problem.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of decks that like reward you for putting Deputy of Detention in, so that's pretty fun.
No, here's another card that I thought was just an amazing fit. James Wandering Dad.
Great, hilarious.
I always like to declare, I met a dad. But actually, he's a human scientist.
Okay.
Scientist is pretty rare, but he has a ability which makes a bunch of clues, his like adventure. But his other side just taps to add 2 colorless mana to spend this mana only to activate abilities. But luckily, Volo has a 2-mana ability, so it fits very well.
Absolutely.
In the deck, along with being a new type. So
that's very fun, and that like not an obvious fit to go together, but very funny for both of them.
It was nice, sort of like looking through these types and being like, wait, that does kind of work. It's got some other things like Crib Swap, which I like, which is not the most efficient removal. This is 2 and a white for a Kindred instant shapeshifter with Changeling. And it exiles target creature. Its controller creates a 1/1 colorless shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. But the fun part about it is when I cast Crib Swap, it technically shares a type with Volo, so I get to draw a card off of it.
Yeah, it triggers your folk hero. Excuse me, yeah.
It's very cool. And then like Robar and Mercenaries, this shows up in a lot of decks. But
I didn't know this one before you showed it to me.
Well, maybe I just like it because I love doubling the effects of things I can do. But this is 3 and a white for a 3/4 human mercenary. There it is. With vigilance. And Robar and Mercenary has all activated abilities of all legendary creatures you control. So,
so it's like a white Marvin. I guess I didn't know there was a non-legendary Marvin.
It's a little Marvin-y.
Yeah.
But it lets me just have someone else who can activate the journal, which is pretty cool.
Peek into Volo's journal?
Yeah, he checks it out.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So on the big turn, what does this deck look like when it's at its most exciting?
So what will happen a lot is that this deck, people will be like, I don't quite get what he's doing. He just keeps listing all these creatures that he's done. Man, he's got 9 creatures in that book. Should I be worried by the fact that he can pay 2 mana, tap Volo, and draw 9 cards?
Probably.
The answer is yes.
That's too many cards.
I remember I played a game with Josh and a couple other people in the office, and everyone was like, oh, Josh is the problem. We're worried about that. And I was just sitting there very quietly as the turn passed around, and Josh goes, you need to be worried about Jordan. He's going to draw like 20 cards next turn. And I was like,
I don't know.
And then I did win on that next turn.
Yep.
But a lot of times, the like final turn after having set up the journal with like a 9 power thing is I'll play out something like
with 9 counters on it, the journal.
Yeah, 9 names written down in the journal.
Right.
I'll play out something like Knowledge is Power, which is one of my favorite win conditions.
It's a very fun win con, especially for like sort of dirtily white-blue decks.
Which is just creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of cards you've drawn this turn. And suddenly, all these random 1-drop changelings and little dudes who show up.
Bird wizards.
Are
human scientists.
15 15s.
Go James.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
That's very fun. I mean, this card is really neat. I like that you can put this on the battlefield and hold it up defensively, and then untap with it and use it aggressively. It's a little bit expensive, but it also is such a thing that Volo would shout.
Knowledge is power!
I love a deck that is a character that has an element of performance to it, and this deck has a lot of that. It's very fun. It's very big. You get to do a lot. You get little props. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Do you have one journal that's dedicated to being Volo's journal, or is it just a journal?
No, I do have a Volo's journal. We went with Josh and we got to go preview a game called Stormgate. That's out now. It's kind of like a StarCraft type game. And they gave us as a thank you these little gift bags that had a journal in it. And it says Frost Giant Games. And I was like, Frost Giant? That sounds like a creature. And so I started using that as my Volo's journal. So every game, I write down the date of the game, and I write down my list of creatures under it so I can keep track of all of it.
Yeah, so when somebody finds it under your bed, they're like, well, this is sociopathic.
Like, I don't know what Vidalkin is, but it's weird.
It sounds scary. Well, thanks for bringing Volo to show him off today. I really appreciate it. All right, on to the next. All right, and up next, we have Beky Bell.
Hello, I'm Beky. I'm the art director here at the Command Zone for about 6 months at the time of recording this.
Very exciting.
And I'm just like a general like artist, art lover, cringe, weird gamer. I don't know how to describe myself anymore. Exactly, yeah.
So what deck did you build this year that you were most excited about?
So I really actually most recently built Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
People will maybe get to see it kind of sort of soon. Unfortunately, my gimmick with Shadow the Hedgehog is that it's just playing edgelords. I mean, we got like Deadpool. We got Final Fantasy has a ton of edgelords.
Oh my God. That's it. Yeah.
One of the most iconic ones of all time in Vincent Valentine. And then like Magic itself just has like Massacre Girl and like Author of Shadows. So I was like, I'd love to talk about this, but it kind of like the gimmick ends there.
That's sort of it.
That's it. That's the joke. I play edgy creature Yawgmoth on the field. He looks like he writes edgy poetry, and that's it. And so I was like, I got to bring a deck that like has a little bit more like oomph to it, a little more like talk back and forth than just goth character on card. And so what I actually brought was Ivy, Gleeful Spell Thief, which is one of my favorite decks that I've ever built. And I I love playing it.
I mean, Ivy is like such a wild card. Can you read this card for people who haven't played with or against it?
Absolutely. I'm going to do my best because I have a lot of signed copies of this card. Shout out to Evan Fong. I absolutely adore her art, and
Evan
she's
Fong's the
so
coolest.
sweet. Ivy reads, when a player casts a spell that targets only a single creature other than Ivy, Gleeful Spell Thief, you may copy that spell. The copy targets Ivy. So it's kind of a lot of like pump spells and auras, shenanigans ensue. I've never personally sat down at a table where somebody else, like my opponents, cast more than like 2 things that I ever copied onto Ivy, but I suppose it could happen. It just hasn't personally happened with me.
Right. They could hypothetically like target one of your other creatures for removal and kill Ivy. Is that true?
It does say may copy this spell.
You may copy.
You may.
Great.
Importantly, you may.
Okay.
Because otherwise, that would be...
What a horrible blowout.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is a wild card that is capable of putting so many different copies onto the field, and it has sort of like a Zada type effect of like, I'm going to take a card that draws cards and it's going to copy multiple things. I'm going to draw a ton. And it's very explosive, can be very confusing to put on the battlefield, but so fun.
Yes.
So what does the main game plan look like for your version?
Sure. So the main game plan is to kind of play a preferably non-human creature. We'll get into why that's important later. And then just like slowly play auras or pump spells onto that creature, copy them onto Ivy, and start swinging for tons of damage. Like this is a deck that a lot of the time is very likely to take out 1 or 2 players with commander damage. But I also have a lot of ramp aspects to play some bigger things on the top end as well.
What bracket do you think this is living at?
So I kind of have a convoluted answer for this that goes into like what made me build it. So we'll kind of get into a part of that later. But I would say this lives in between like a 2 or a 3, has capabilities of going up to a 4. My like base list for it, I would say lives at like a 3 because it has some amount of the free counter spells, Rhystic Study, Mystic Remora, things like that.
Sure. Yeah, I would say that's definitely a 3. Ivy can be so explosive and so dynamic that it can be a difficult thing to disrupt if you, first of all, don't know how Ivy works.
Yeah, which it's very confusing. So if you're not like very ready to like have a very difficult board state, I would not touch Ivy.
Right, yeah. But if you are.
And if you're looking for some shenanigans, Ivy.
Well, you never touch Ivy. You touch something next to Ivy.
Yes, exactly. And then Ivy goes, give me that.
Also me.
Yeah. Exactly. And she looks like she says it exactly like that too.
Also me. Please. On mine.
Yep.
We have a joke that the cat will get on your lap and just be like, me. And that feels like Ivy. What made you build this commander?
So traditionally, the way that I have built decks for Commander has always been with cards that I own. I've never been a person who like sits and is like, I'm going to try and build the most optimal deck through every card in Magic's history. I'm building a deck because I'm sitting there going through all of my draft chaff, all of the things that I have played that have been taken out of modern decks and are just like living in boxes. And I'm going through those and I'm like, oh, this seems like a fun card that could go with this kind of legendary creature. And so like maybe eventually this pile on my desk will become big enough to become a commander deck.
Right.
And that's how I've built decks previously. And Ivy is kind of this perfect way to play all of these kind of bad or sometimes not so bad auras that I played in different draft formats that I just had cards for like laying around. So originally when I built Ivy, it was with that in mind. I just was like, this card is cool. Let's see pump spells that I really liked playing with in Limited, and let's see auras that like are kind of not really good, but if you can make 2 copies of them, maybe it's not so bad. Yeah.
It's a very cool card. I mean, this sort of thing is, in my opinion, the most fun thing to build when you have a very low floor for what goes in the deck. You're like, oh, as long as it says target, I can play it. Like, it doesn't really matter what it actually does because it does it twice.
And, like, I just kind of think 2-mana commanders are OP.
Yeah.
Like, you're just, like, at base level going to be able to do strong-ish things.
Yeah. Your hand is just always good because you're like, I have something to do on 2 always.
Exactly.
So
I think that like if you're looking to, I don't know, like start building a deck, or you want to build a deck that is like lower power but is still going to be able to like do things, I would actually recommend doing a lower cost commander to a lot of players.
What is your favorite card in this deck?
So my favorite cards are probably things like Auspicious Sterix.
Mutate.
Mutate is a very important part of this deck because it allows you to do a lot of shenanigans with Ivy.
Because a Mutate spell is a spell that targets Ivy on the stack. Yes.
Yep. And Auspicious Sterix is probably just the strongest mutate creature that there is. It allows you to just like slap things onto the battlefield. If you get even more mutate, it just gets exponentially cooler, does bigger things. And a lot of the time you're doing it twice because you're copying it onto Ivy. But then I'm also a really big fan of an aura enchantment called Mark of Sakiko, which is
This one I don't know. Wait, is this the one that makes mana?
It's the one that makes mana. And then you make green mana equal to the amount of damage that you've done. So it's a big ramp card. I think it's absolutely great in this deck, especially when you get 2 copies of it. That's a ton of mana that you're making in your post-combat main phase. So that's probably my favorite card in the deck because it's also one that a lot of people don't really play with. I like playing with, again, I'm pulling these out of my boxes from like, oh, I drafted this 4 years ago. Let's see if it can work in this deck, and it's just going to bring me happiness for a little bit when I play it.
Yeah.
And so I think that those are like the 2 that have been probably the most joy in playing them.
I love that. That's very exciting. So Ivy can do a lot of wacky moves. And I imagine every game is going to be a little bit different from the one before it because you do never know what combination of things are going to come together.
Yes.
But what is the coolest move that Ivy can offer or has done in the past?
So the coolest move that you're kind of doing most games, I would say, like there's not a ton of mutate creatures, but there are enough of them that you're able to some amount of the time get like multiple onto each other. But you're pretty much playing at least one mutate creature per game. And mutate does, if you put it on the bottom of Ivy, so the mutate creature is on top, Ivy technically becomes a token. Because mutate is weird. I literally wrote down like C111.13 and 7929.2D of the comprehensive rules because those reference.
That's so weird. So she, like you mutate the non-token mutate creature onto something else, and then the token mutate creature goes on top of Ivy, and she gains the properties of the creature on top.
Yep.
Wild.
And that also makes her non-legendary. So this allows you to clone Ivy and then have multiple things that have Ivy's text on them. But it also allows you to do things like if you attack with an Essica's Chariot, you can copy and make a token copy of Ivy because it's a token from being mutated.
Gross, weird.
Gross, weird. Gross, weird, and I love it.
That's very cool. And that is definitely one of those things that you're like, I have the notes because I know this doesn't make sense, but it does. Yeah. Because it says.
Yep.
Huge.
The first time that my partner explained it to me, I was like, this sounds so crazy, insane. There's no way that it's true. But
look, mutate's weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. And like, I make a lot of jokes. I'm like, I'm so happy that I got to play with Mutate at a time where it was at the start of the pandemic and we only played it like pretty much on Arena or on Magic Online because I think if I had to play with it in paper from start to finish, I would have just had a heck of a time.
Oh my God.
But luckily, like with it being mostly on online formats, I feel like my brain was able to like parse it together by like seeing it visually, which helped me tremendously.
Oh my gosh. Arena helps so much with complicated rules things where it's like, even when I'm trying to sort something out and like what actually happens, I picture the Arena triggers.
Yes, exactly.
You're like,
exactly. Seeing them online, like, I just recommend it to new players. If you're a visual person and you just like need to see what it looks like, you need to see like, because a lot of people will be like, oh, first in, last out. And it's like, that doesn't like really mean anything to me.
Right, yeah.
I need to see.
They're like, it's like pancakes. And you're like, no, it's not.
Nobody eats a stack of pancakes one at a time.
That doesn't make any sense.
So just online formats help you like figure out things a lot easier. IMO, do those if you're trying to get an understanding of how cards work.
Well, you've got a lot of different copies of Ivy here, just in case you can really get this copy thing going. We're going to put a picture on screen because you have like signed cards from Evan Fong. You've got like this is the cutest little proof that she did for you. We'll make sure we get a picture and we can show all of them up close. But thank you for bringing Ivy to show off. Yeah. And we're going to get on to the next deck.
All right, really cool deck from Beky. I always thought about building an Ivy deck, and it's one of those ones that just kind of like, oh, then the new thing came out, and I kind of never got around to it. But I've seen
Ivy's so neat.
Yeah, I've seen it played a number of times, played against Ivy decks. It's a very cool deck. Definitely recommend if it sort of intrigues you. Definitely worth trying to build around. Now, we've got a bunch more decks from other members of the CZ team coming up. But before we get into those, let's talk about our sponsors. CardKingdom.com/command is the best place to go if you are maybe thinking about building a new deck. Maybe you're going to build one of the ones we're talking about, or maybe you've got another one you've been working on that's finally, the deck list is finished. The great thing about Card Kingdom is you just take that list, you put it into the cart, and you hit checkout, and then all those cards just arrive in one convenient package all at once. Card Kingdom has a huge inventory. They've got the cards you're looking for in the version and the condition that you're looking for. And the other great thing about them is if anything does happen, they have a customer service team. They are very professional about the way that they solve any sort of problems that happen, and they always go above and beyond. Rarely have problems with them, but if you ever do, it's great to deal with a company like that. So we can just wholeheartedly endorse cardkingdom.com/command.
And once those cards are in your hand, you're going to need to protect them, keep them safe. Go to ultrapro.com/command and you are supporting the show while you shop. You can get playmats and deck boxes, binders, sleeves, everything you need to keep your decks well organized, safe, and looking great. I just bought a Bob Ross binder that has like the mountains on it for all of my like spare lands that can go in decks. Plus, when you use that affiliate link, you're supporting us and a great company that makes really high quality products. So go to ultrapro.com/command. You're supporting us and you're picking up some very cool stuff on the cheap usually.
Yeah, and speaking of supporting us, the final way to do that, or the best way maybe to do that, is patreon.com/command zone. You can support us directly and join our community. Patrons get all kinds of cool perks, like access to our Discord, where Jimmy, Rachel, myself, most members of the team are on there each and every day, hanging out, answering questions, chatting with our patrons. You also get access to exclusive content like Turn Talk, which is a show that we produce that is only available to patrons at a certain tier. It is not released for the public. And the great thing is, if you joined our Patreon today, you would automatically get access to over 30 episodes of that show that have already existed, which often causes me to go back and rewatch episodes of Extra Turns because I've heard what the person was sort of thinking about while they made their plays, and then I can kind of watch and be like, oh, that's interesting. I've learned a lot about strategy just by sort of considering other people's point of view about how they think about the game. And it also helps me put myself in my opponent's position sometimes about why they may be making the moves, because people don't always think like you, and it's interesting to hear how they do things. So again, patreon.com/command zone is where you can get access to all of that.
Plus, we shout out one lucky patron every single podcast episode. And this one is dedicated to Jordan Travers. Jordan, you rock.
You definitely rock.
All right. Should we get back to it?
Yeah. I think we're about to hear from Jake Boss himself.
All right. Up next is Jake Boss.
Hey, everybody.
Thanks for joining us, Jake. What did you build this year that got you excited?
Well, this is weird, but I built Joda the Unifier, and that made me excited. But I can explain. I can explain. SpongeBob memes already. It's SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah.
SpongeBob was a core part of my childhood, and I loved it so much. It's about joy and stupidity, and that's why we're here.
Yeah.
But I was backstage at MagicCon as they were revealing, and we're doing a SpongeBob secret lair thing.
I remember this.
And I'm little Mr. Producer back there. I'm trying to look really important. I got my wings on like this, and I got my headset on, and they say SpongeBob, and I scream, "Wah!" And you're not supposed to do this when you're a working professional. But I did it anyway. And then Josh kind of looks back at me like, he thinks it's funny that I did that. But then I just walk away. I cannot be around people right now. Am I embarrassed, or am I just containing myself? I don't know. But I knew that whatever they released, I was going to make. Then they spoiled it, and it's Joda.
Yep.
What's a fella to do about that? So
he's so powerful. I think that was a big thing when it came out. Joda's a famously powerful commander, and it's one of those that, like, if you leave it on the battlefield too long, it just wins the game all by itself.
Yeah, hey, you guys mind if I play my Joda deck against you? Yes.
Yeah, I do. I don't want to do that.
You mean you already win? That's fine. I guess we'll be guest stars. But
yeah, that was a little bit of a shame for me, but I love that you stuck to it. I love that you were like, it's SpongeBob. This is what I'm going to do. What did you do about the Joda problem?
So I created limitations. I'm like, okay, we're doing this. And I'm going to include every SpongeBob card, all the basics, all the meme cards, all of the legends that came with it. which includes some pretty bad ones like Patrick Star, which is just a vanilla. I don't even know the original.
He's a 7-mana Rakdos vanilla creature.
Yeah, which we'll talk about in a second because you had a great idea about that. But and then Plankton as Skrelv Defector Might, which was pretty good.
Yeah.
And then a few others that are just like bland legends that don't have any synergy. They're not exciting. Sandia's Toski is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But at its worst, Gary is Toxrill.
Right.
So
what were they
I'm like, what are we going to do about this? So I created a deck that is called the Pineapple, and the restriction is it needs to be all cartoons. And that leaves it open to my interpretation. So I put all the Transformer cards in there, easy. Some of the Modern Horizons sketch cards are in there, which is like debatable.
Yeah, you had to make the rules in the Pineapple.
Yeah, and there's a Moraphon copy in there that's the Portrait series, which has a hard outline around it. So that's a cartoon to me. I make the rules. I get to argue about it, and I love that.
This was really fun, and it's one of those things that, like, I love a deck that when you build it, that you know there's going to be more cards that get to add to it, and you're like, as more cards get printed in Secret Lair, as more cards get sort of this super stylistic treatment, the deck is going to grow and change and become, you know, Sunday or Saturday cartoons.
Right. And I think, part of the joy of SpongeBob for me, like maybe this is too deep for the podcast or whatever, is it's about joy in your inner child and all that stuff. And part of childhood sometimes is not getting what you want, but making the best of it anyway.
But doing
introducing
the
best Pineapple.
You can.
What are we going to do if we don't get what we want? So we should probably read Joda for the folks who are in the car. It's one of every mana, so Wooburg. For a legendary creature, human wizard, legendary creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of legendary creatures you control. So all of your legends get huge. And then whenever you cast a legendary spell from your hand, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a legendary non-land card with lesser mana value. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So the Cascade, you have to have the right targets for it. But something really fun that came out of that was the cartoon version of River Song.
Yeah.
Because she draws cards from the bottom of your library. So I've got a couple of cards in there. I try not to have too many game changers, but I got a couple cards in there that tutor creatures to the top of your deck, like Worldly Tutor. Or I can keep stuff on top with scrying or whatever. So I control what I'm going to cascade into.
Sure.
And then you protect the top of your deck by drawing from the bottom. Also, it's a dexterity challenge every time. And that's all fun.
Yeah, there's some really neat tricks that this deck can do, and I love the idea that you're just like, I'm going to have all of the cartoon worlds collide in this deck, and I'm going to use Joda's ability to sort of vomit cards onto the board to just show off a bunch of neat cards.
Right. And once it's out, the legends are going to be big bodies. The Skrelv Plankton is going to be a 7/7, but what do you care?
With Toxic 1.
With Toxic 1. Watch out for him.
So this, you mentioned it has a couple of game changers, so it probably checks the box for bracket 3, but it's designed to be as low power as Joda can really be.
Correct. So this used to be a deck called Moraphon Meets the Eye, which was all about playing every single Transformer, which is 15 of very non-synergistic cards, all stuffed into a deck. Well, I stuffed all the SpongeBob on top of Moraphon Meets the Eye. So I used to say it's a pretty good deck back before we had brackets. It's an 8 that's in pursuit of something stupid. So don't worry about it.
It's a bad 4.
Since I got you here, I got to mention one of my favorite cards in the deck that I think you're going to love is the cartoon version of Crash Through.
Ooh, ponies.
Here it is now. You see that over there? Rachel, the card's right there.
Where?
Yeah, you see the ponies?
There's all those unicorns.
They're crashing, and I got the foil version, you see? It's all rainbow.
Oh my God.
Very nice.
I have that one used to be in my pony deck too.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
And the Ghostbusters cards, those were great cartoons. I like the Slime Time stuff, like the Mimeoplasm. Yeah, a bunch of fun options or interpretations.
Yeah, I love it. What's your favorite thing the deck can do?
Definitely the River Song trick is really fun. Cascading for 1 is fun because there's one hit, so I'm about to cascade all the way down to Plankton, and that's it.
Having Plankton pop out unwanted is always very funny.
Getting to play all of my cards without introducing trample or really being too much of a problem is fun. You're kind of doing the thing without hurting anybody.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I've talked about this deck a couple of times on TikTok and stuff like that. And sometimes you get the response of like, well, your play group just needs to get good, loser. And like, I don't know. Like
I need to get good. Like what? I'm trying to be bad.
That was why I was upset with the SpongeBob Secret Lair to begin with, was the Tox roll and the Joda. Why couldn't they have been anything else? Why not Morofon or anything else to...
I felt like I was sure SpongeBob was going to be Kenios and Tiro.
Yeah,
I was
that
sure.
would have been great.
I don't know where the black is coming from in SpongeBob, but you know, I guess he really wants to be manager.
Everybody's inclusive. Maybe the day that he had stinky breath or something.
Sure.
Or his visit to rock bottom. But, you know, as I say, things that bother you never bother me. I feel happy and fine. Aha! Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time. Belding.
Bye. And up next, you know him, you love him, it's Jamie Block.
Hey everyone, I am said Jamie Block, and I'm a writer-producer here at the Command Zone.
Yeah, what deck did you build this year?
I built a Gogo Master of Mimicry, the blue one.
The blue one. I built the red one, so I love that you built this one.
Yeah, this one, I don't know. Since working at the Command Zone, I've built more mono blue decks than I had before combined. But this one, it's a 3-mana 2/4 that has an activated ability of XX, tap it. Copy target activated or triggered ability you control X times. You may choose new targets for the copies. This ability can't be copied, and X can't be 0.
Right. This is a very cool commander. You can do a lot of weird tricks with it. Tell us a little bit about what the 99 looks like, what it's trying to do.
What it's trying to do the most, what sort of drew me to it is trying to play any fetch land it can possibly find in the opening
The fetch land's
hand.
the coolest move.
Yeah, just the dream start is just like Mana Rock on 2, Commander on 3, fetch land, crack it, copy that ability twice so you get 3 islands, and then just play some 3-drop that's good and be off to the races mana-wise. Like mono blue ramp is definitely part of what it does, and then it just plays some fun, silly, mostly triggered but some activated abilities to copy with Gogo.
It's very fun. What bracket would you call this one?
I'd say pretty squarely bracket 3. It definitely has the game changers in it to make it bracket 3, and they are strong, and the deck can do some pretty strong things and sort of be at that level.
It can be very explosive, this deck. It can jump out to the races, like you said, on turn 4. You make like 6 mana.
Yeah. It's not doing any of the untap shenanigans that I think are a characteristic of bracket 4 blue Gogo decks.
Sure.
And it's not running the level of interaction or the mana efficiency of interaction that I would say would push it to 4. So that's why I keep it at 3, is I'm not trying to combo with it. I'm trying to do big, silly stuff, but I can do that big, silly stuff pretty quickly. And the big, silly stuff also happens to be very powerful stuff.
Cool. I love it. So what are like a couple of the defining cards that you think like sort of speak to what that deck do?
Yeah, I mean, the fetches sort of first and foremost are a big part of it. One of them is definitely a Summon Bahamut, which is why I have it in the
Summon Bahamut box.
It's really good with Saga. So like that, Kioribest, the Sea God, just the fact that you can copy each chapter of the saga as it comes along.
And they're free triggered abilities. You don't have to pay mana and then pay to copy them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those are a lot of fun. It has some that are just, I like because they are janky. Arcanus makes an appearance in this deck. I pulled it out because I wanted to get the name right. Ambling Storm Shell.
I know this one. Yeah. What does this do?
The main thing it does is it is a turtle and says whenever it attacks, put 3 stun counters on it and draw 3 cards. So you're attacking, you're copying that 2 or 3 times, drawing 9 or 12 cards, and never using this turtle for anything else again.
And then the turtle sleeps soundly on your board.
Yeah, but generally, it's trying to copy big stuff, whether it's explosive card draw or sometimes explosive token making. Kioribest the Sea God, yes, you do have to pay a lot up front if you're copying the 8/8 mode. There's also, I think it's called Ulamog's Dreadsire, which has an ability that's literally just tap, make a 10/10. That's one of the other sort of main big things it can do.
So it wins with like big beats. It's got a like big, heavy top end stuff that have powerful activated and triggered abilities.
Yeah, it is definitely a combat win condition, whether it's those 10/10s, a few things that make Karnstrucks, including Urza, one of the game changers that make Sway in there. It's basically make a big silly board and then clear the way for it to actually get through.
Very cool. What made you build this deck? What drew you to Gogo?
I sort of just latched on to the idea of the fetch land situation and mono blue ramp.
Yeah.
It really spoke to me. And I like commanders that are at least a little bit open-ended, that don't just build themselves. There are, even in just one color, there are so many abilities that you can be copying with this thing that I figured, the odds that my list feels like it's just the boilerplate Gogo list were pretty low. And that is a thing that I still care about, is just sort of feeling like my brew is at least in some way unique. Sometimes that happens more successfully than other times. But that was a big part of it, was it can do interesting things. It can break the color pie a little bit. And it's open-ended enough that, my list is probably not going to be like, not the exact same 99 as some other blue Gogo list out there.
For sure. So when this deck is at its coolest, what is it doing? Like, what's its coolest move?
Its coolest move is the other card I pulled out.
Yeah, I love this.
Which is Malcolm Alluring Scoundrel, which I'll just read the relevant ability. Whenever Malcolm Alluring Scoundrel deals combat damage to a player, put a chorus counter on it. Draw a card, then discard a card. If there are 4 or more chorus counters on Malcolm, you may cast the discarded card without paying its mana cost. So look, I don't try to misrepresent the game state when I'm in a game, but I'm not going to necessarily point out to people that if you copy that ability a whole bunch of times, starting with the 4th resolution of it, you will just be casting what you discard for free. And that is definitely my favorite thing that the deck can do.
It's very cool. So for people who aren't following along, you put this trigger on the stack. It's draw a discard, put a counter. If you copy that 3 times you get to the 4th ability, you get 1 spell for free. But if you copy it more than 3 times, then you get the Omniscience ability multiple times and can cast multiple spells for free.
Yeah, I think the last time I played this deck, I was able to copy it 5 times for a total of 6 instances of the ability, which meant 3 times I just loot and it's normal, and then 3 times I loot and cast for free what I discarded, which can again be something like this, Kiorbes the Sea God, Summon Bahamut. We're talking 7, 8, 9 drops. Portal of Phyrexia, I think, made its way into that game somewhere.
Seems good.
Yeah, that's coolest for me.
I mean, that's awesome. I think I was in this game because we were like, wait, what?
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun, and I think it's sort of one pitfall, I would say, not necessarily from a deck building perspective, but from how it plays and how it feels to pilot it, is it can do these really cool splashy things, and as soon as it does one of those things, you're not keeping Gogo for the rest of the game. The table has realized what you're capable of, and it's just sort of over. And luckily, that one big thing that it does is usually big enough that even if Gogo keeps getting destroyed every time it comes out, you're still in a good enough position from that point moving forward to at least be in the game, if not win it. And if you eventually play your opponents out of removal spells and get to actually start copying things again once you're set up, that's going to be enough to finish it.
It's going to be really gross. Yeah, this deck is awesome. It is an innocuous commander until you've played against it and you really realize the endless possibilities of what Gogo can do. Thanks for showing it off. Enjoy the deck list. Check it out on ARCHIDEKT. We'll have the full link for you in the show notes. If you're enjoying this episode, we've got lots more to show you. If you have a deck that you built this year that you're really excited about, we want to see it as well. Throw that link down in the show notes. There's a lot of cool commanders that came out this year as we're trying to show off in this episode. So we want to see what you've been up to. And we're going to show you the rest of the deck lists that have been bouncing around the office this year after a few words from our sponsors.
Stay put.
Fall is here again, and Jordan, you know what that means.
I sure do. It's time to find another sacrifice for the harvest gods.
What? No, I just meant it's been a year, and you and I are both still enjoying Factor meals.
Oh yeah, that's true. And you know what's crazy is that even after all this time, I'm not bored of it.
Well, that's because they keep adding meals and shaking things up, like the new seafood and Mediterranean-inspired meals. Have you tried the cavatappi and shrimp scampi?
No, but I'll put it on my list. I've been liking the new Asian-inspired meals like the Thai peanut chicken salad. The variety's really just made it easy to keep up with my health goals, you know?
Yeah, definitely. It takes away any excuse I have to just go out and get fast food or order delivery every night. On that note, it is actually insane how much money I've been saving.
Oh yeah, me too. And that's money that I can spend appeasing the harvest gods.
Or, just buying magic cards like a normal human being.
Yeah, that too.
Eat smart at factormeals.com/command50off and use code command50off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code command50off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. You know what's great about RAYCON Study?
I think so.
All the quick and easy payments.
Exactly. Wait, what?
Do you pay the one? Yes. Simple.
Uh-huh.
The only way to make payments quicker and easier would be with our sponsor, Square.
Ah, now I get it.
Square is the business tool that simplifies your day-to-day with sleek point-of-sale hardware and helpful behind-the-scenes tools. So customers can check out faster than you can say, do you pay the $1.99? A bunch of our favorite nearby restaurants use Square, and I always appreciate how it keeps the lunch rush moving. And it's designed for any sort of business, from a one-location shop or a booth at a MagicCon to an entire multi-store franchise. You can take payments at a kiosk, counter, website, or even on your phone, all synced in real time. Plus, Square has built-in marketing and loyalty tools to keep you in touch with your customers and reward them for coming back to buy another day.
Wow, sounds like Square might just be a game changer.
Puns! With Square, you get all the tools to run your business with none of the contracts or complexity.
And why wait? Right now, you can get up to $200 off Square hardware at square.com/go/command. That's SQUARE.com/GO/command.
Run your business smarter with Square. Get started today.
This message is sponsored by RAYCON.
I am Edgar Markov, vomiter of vampires, bane of brackets 2, 3, and 4. But now I am back in this stylish retro frame. In many ways, I am just like my beloved RAYCON Everyday Earbuds Classic. Let us count them. 1. We both deliver top-tier performance in an elegant classic look. 2. I am less pricey post-reprint, and RAYCONs are half the price of other premium brands. 3. The latest version of RAYCON's Everyday Earbuds Classic now features active noise cancellation, so we can both silence the riffraff with a single tap. 4. Everyone loves us. These RAYCONs are my favorite way to blast some Baroque beats while bashing your opponent's body. And with tens of thousands of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star reviews, countless others agree. But let's count them anyway. 1, 2, 3.
Click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/command to get 20% off site-wide. Again, that's buyraycon.com/command.
One fish, two fish, red fish, clue fish.
Dr. Seuss?
No, I'm working on Morph on Fish Typal. Just want to make sure I have enough fish to actually draw some.
Oh, well, you should use ARCHIDEKT's hypergeometric calculator. See? ARCHIDEKT makes it easy to check your chances of drawing what you need, whether it's a certain creature type, mana value, or category of cards, like ramp or draw spells. I use it to check my land count. See, in this deck, you only have a 61% chance of drawing 3 lands by turn 2. Might be a little low.
Okay, I'll cut a basic or 2.
Wait, you mean add?
Nope, I've got a reputation to uphold.
ARCHIDEKT is the best place to browse, brew, and playtest commander decks. Just go to archidekt.com/command zone to get started.
That's ARCHIDEKT.com/command zone.
Welcome back, everybody. We are talking about decks that we built this year, and I'm here with Murph.
Hello. I'm here. I built a deck, one deck this past year, not a ton.
You only built one deck this year?
Yeah, I've done a lot of tinkering with some of my old decks, but as far as fresh new decks, I think I've only built the one.
All right, well, tell us about this deck that made your cut in 2025.
So this deck is a little bit of an interesting one. It's Kangee the Sky Warden. It's 3 white and a blue, 3/3 flying vigilance bird wizard. When it attacks, attacking creatures with flying get +2/+0 until end of turn, and when it blocks, blocking creatures with flying get +0/+2 until end of turn. So
it
flies and it buffs flyers. So it's pretty darn basic. It does what it says on the tin. You play flyers, some birds, some angels, some stuff that's relatively low to the ground, kind of like fill out the board. Nothing too token focused. Usually just like Windrakes and stuff like that. Ideally better than Windrakes, but relatively simple stuff like
Windrake-ish.
Windrake-ish.
What kind of bracket level would you consider this deck?
I would say it's 2. I have 1 Consecrated Sphinx in there, so there's 1 game changer. So if you want to say, actually, that's a 3, I wouldn't be like, you're crazy for that, but
But generally the game plan is like pretty progressive. It's not very like incremental. I mean, it's not going to kill you out of nowhere, and it doesn't progress super fast.
Yes, it is made to hang in a pod of 2s or 3s. It is not going to go over the top if everybody else is a 2, and it should be able to hang with the 3s. Probably not great with 4s though. Yeah. I will say.
I think that's fair. What, you get flying 5 mana Azorius commander?
Yeah.
So this is a very interesting one. It's pretty basic for you. You tend to go exotic with your builds. What drew you to Kangee this year?
So this one was mostly because I saw a need in my collection in that I've been doing a lot of teaching people recently, teaching people Magic and trying to get people into Magic. And usually the question that happens is, oh, can I play one of your commander decks? And the answer I kept running into was, ooh, you probably don't want to do that.
Probably not. And all these precons are also pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, but a precon would be the thing that I would say like, okay, well, you should go buy a precon. But if we're just playing right now, well, that's not a very good option, right?
Right, yeah.
So I thought about, well, maybe I should go out and get a precon for somebody that I could just have on hand always, just in case somebody else was learning and wanted to play. And then I thought, I can just build whatever I want for this scenario.
A Murph precon.
I can build my own. And so this was a card that they had in like the starter commander precon, but I wanted to do like kind of my own take on it. Something that I really wanted to focus on was simplicity, yet iconic cards and powerful cards. Just try to keep things as very bare bones, as very basic as possible. So like, for example, the board wipes in this are like, Day of Judgment, destroy all creatures. Supreme Verdict, can't be countered, destroy all creatures. Stuff that's very, very simple like that.
That was a huge thing I focused on when I was building decks for new players is limiting modality, limiting cards that do multiple things. Like normally that's something that we strive toward in Commander, but when you're a new player and you look at a card that could do 3 things, you get decision paralysis on when and how to use those. So having a board wipe there, like I understand exactly how what this does, and I know when might be good for me to cast it.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And that's kind of what drew me to Kangee in general, is because when new players are playing, especially in Commander, they'll oftentimes get decision paralysis with, like, say, attacking. And a Flyers deck kind of takes that decision paralysis out of it and gets you used to attacking. Kangee specifically says, hey, I buff you if you attack, and I put in cards specifically that are like, draw cards when you attack. Try to like nudge you towards that, like you get a bonus if you attack. Not forcing you to do it, but trying to just naturally, in the flow of the game, get you to want to do it.
Right.
And so it's very, very linear in that way, and so I like it.
Yeah.
Because it's just play birds. But I one thing that I wanted to make sure was in there was still like powerful cards. Cards that would be good in the theme of it. Cards that would make people go, wow. Because I think that is one thing that is kind of missing from like beginner products.
Is it should be good.
It should be good, and it should be fun to play, and it should include cards that make people go like, you can do that. So I put in the classic Platinum Angel. A little bit of a beginner's trap, sure, but
it's exciting.
It's exciting. It's a flyer, and you can sit there and be like, so wait, I can't lose the game as long as this is out here? And you're like, and they're like, oh, that's awesome. And so there's cards like this. I put an Avacyn in there. Avacyn's a very, very powerful card and can be difficult to deal with. I want people to be able to have that experience of, well, I put it out there and think, I'm unstoppable.
Yeah, that's a huge thing where like I've talked to a lot of people about how to make beginner decks, and I think a lot of people try and build low power things, and the answer is like you want it to be good. You want them to play and feel like they participated and had fun doing it and like did sick stuff.
Yeah,
because they see you doing cool stuff. Like they want to play. They don't want to be just sitting on the sideline like playing like maybe an easy deck, but not necessarily like a good and exciting deck. So I love that this one's really fun. And I love when you're a new player, flying feels very powerful. Because you're like, you just can't block it. So all your stuff, I can block it, but you can't block mine.
A lot of my pods and just a lot of general pods out there will oftentimes also have dragon decks. So like I built this with the intention of like, hey, if you come to my pod, there will be a dragon deck. you should probably have some sort of answer to it. You don't want to feel like you just get run over and there's nothing to do about it, because dragons can feel very overwhelming to a new player. So I was like, well, that's kind of a common beginner's thing that you're going to run into. Here's some flyers to maybe make it so you don't just immediately die to a dragon's deck.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
What is your favorite card in the deck? What's the one that you were like, oh man, they're going to love this?
Probably Metamai. Metamai the Ageless.
I love a Metamai. That's an old school one.
It's an old school one.
Read Metamai for us.
Okay. So Metamai is a 4/4 flyer for 6 for white and a blue. When it deals combat damage to a player, take an extra turn after this one. Can't attack during extra turns, and it obviously has flying as well.
That's sweet.
So yeah, it's so cool. It does that thing once again of you look at that and you read, wait, I can just get another turn? Yeah, you can.
And I get all this stuff? Yeah.
Yes, you do.
That's a very simple mechanic that you understand how powerful it is, for sure. That's a cool idea. So this is the kind of deck that you know exactly what it feels like when it's really powerful. Have you played this deck a lot yourself, or have you just given it to other people to play?
I've primarily played it myself. I've given it away to play once, and so far so good. It has done what I expected, what I've wanted, and when I play it myself, I also have fun. And I think that's the most important thing, is because if I, as a Magic player, am having fun, but also simultaneously not being overwhelmed by the text on the cards, by the decisions that the deck offers, sometimes I will just pull this out when it's like near the end of the night. I'm just like, I just want to play some birds, tag with some birds.
I don't want to think about it.
Don't want to think too much.
Yeah.
And it'll be fun.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad that I have that in my collection, both for myself, but for others as well.
Yeah, I would also say if you're teaching somebody and you're giving away this deck for somebody else to play, you should have a deck that is similarly legible.
Yes.
A lot of my low power decks are low power because I'm doing something silly and ridiculous and not particularly
simple,
obvious as to what's going on. And I made the mistake of playing a very complicated deck that is low power against my my sister and her boyfriend who were just learning, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And I basically had to say, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it, but I win?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that their deck being easy is the most important.
For sure, yeah.
Because oftentimes when I tell people on like how to play Commander, how to play Magic, I'm like, focus on your deck first. Don't worry too much about what other people are doing, which is why flyers are, again, very helpful with that. You don't have to worry too much about what everybody else has unless they're a flyer.
Yeah.
Right? So you can just kind of play your own game, play at your own pace, worry about how to play your deck, and then you can move on to, well, now what does everybody else have? How do I assess that the best?
That's the next step for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for showing off Kangee. This is a very cool building project. I really like building stuff for new players because it feels just sort of fresh and clean and familiar. Yeah. It's very exciting.
Just brings me back to the time when I first started playing. There's so many things that I drew on from like my experience first playing Commander. Like I had an issue with colorless mana versus colored mana. So in this deck, there's nothing that makes colorless mana. Only colored mana. Because then I don't have to explain anything and nobody can get tripped up on. So
yeah, that's later.
Yeah.
Who needs that?
Don't worry about it.
Cool.
Just have fun. Attack with flyers.
Thanks, Murph. All right, we're going to move on to the next deck. All right, and up next, we have Karina Cruz for the very first time. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karina. I am a production coordinator here at the Command Zone, and I currently edit the podcast. And I'm so excited to be sitting next to the legendary Miss Rachel Weeks, who has also been deemed one of Magic's most brilliant minds, said by the professor. So that is a big title.
I have to get that cross stitched for my desk. Well, thank you for joining us. Thanks for taking the time. What deck did you build this year that you were excited to talk about?
So today I brought Cloud X Soldier. It is mostly a precon. It has some upgrades, which are mostly the Final Fantasy Secret Lair equipment.
Yeah.
With 2 non-Final Fantasy additions. One of them is Amy Rose, which is a hedgehog, and the other one is a Boros charm because we said it in the episode. Add
Boros charm. It's good. Yeah. So, I love that this deck is like, it's all the Final Fantasy cards plus some more Final Fantasy cards and also 2 cards that seem good. Because I think this is how a lot of people build with precons. You build a precon, it works pretty well. You get some new ones that fit really, really well. There's like sort of Truth and Justice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about later.
One of the swords. We'll talk about it later. I'm sorry.
Give me a very interesting game one day.
But this is a sweet deck. It's really fast. It can kill someone out of nowhere.
One shot.
Talk to me about how it plays.
How it plays. Honestly, just hopefully it's cast Cloud early on, attach stuff to Cloud, right? If it's not Cloud, then it's Amy Rose or any other creature in my deck.
Sure.
And the good thing about Naya decks is green. We ramp. We ramp a lot. So that is the hope. That is what the deck does.
Yeah, I mean, gets your commander out fast and kills somebody even faster. We talked a little bit about the bracket level of this deck because I do think it's interesting.
Yeah, so it doesn't have any game changers. And the tutor card that's in here is Cloud Midgar Mercenary, which is search for an equipment.
Yeah.
I pulled him. So initially, I probably would have called it a 2. But there was a game in which we had, and you were like, I think it's a 3 because how easy I can potentially one-shot somebody, right? Like, I've had Cloud be as big as 15-15.
Yeah,
it's like,
very fast.
I just need 2 turns to kill you, right?
And like you said, it's green. You can ramp. You can get Cloud down on turn 4 easy, sometimes 3 if you're, like, really speedy. But the Voltron decks are very interesting when it comes to bracket level because I do think in terms of power level, they're on the lower end because they're pretty easy to disrupt. But a lot of bracket 2 decks aren't going to be ready to just be like completely blown out of the water immediately. So it's one of those things that you're like, I don't know, it's like kind of does 2-level stuff and it kind of does 3-level stuff.
Yeah, I think it can definitely be a powerhouse against other bracket 2 decks. In bracket 3, I think it could hold its own. I think once you kill Cloud maybe 2 times, like it's kind of like,
tough,
all right, I'm just attaching my stuff to something else.
New plan.
Right? Different plan is not commander damage, which I will say I was never I'm going to hit you, I'm going to kill you by commander damage, right? But this deck has, I'm like, oh, commander damage is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Right? Like, as a person that doesn't typically play this style of deck, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. What made you build this deck? Because you're not a huge Final Fantasy fan.
I know nothing about Final Fantasy.
But you bought all the precons.
I bought all the precons because I love getting the precons to almost every set.
Right, yes.
I think Jake calls it like you pay the deck builder fee.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'll just buy the precon. Somebody made this deck. Let me test it out. If I don't like it at all, I'll dismantle it or I'll do some changes. And funny enough, I was actually supposed to dismantle Cloud because I was like, I already have 3 other Naya decks. I have 2 Cat Dog decks and a Pantlaza deck.
Right. Yep.
Because I'm a Naya player. And the play style I do is I just like building a big army of something, whether it's dinosaurs, dragons, right, pirates. So I was going to dismantle it. And I was like, you know what, let me test it out once, right? So I played a Lunchmander game with Sebastian and Murph and Jake. And when I tell you, I turn 1 Colossus Hammer.
Oh, no.
And when you cast Cloud, right, you can attach something to him.
Automatically, yep.
So I put that Colossus Hammer on him. And at some point, I got Tifa out. And I hit 2 different players, and I got 2 additional combat phases. I killed, it must have been Murph with commander damage.
It's always
And
Murph.
then the rest, everybody else was just like overpowering just because I had buffed up creatures. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. Like, we're not dismantling this. This is a different playstyle where I'm like, okay, actually, I'm saving this for like when I feel like just focusing on like less creatures and just attaching stuff to them.
Yeah, just more beatdown, more speed. I mean, haste and power that Cloud offers means it could be really, really explosive. But I love that he has sort of won you over. What's your favorite card in the deck?
My favorite card in the deck?
Yeah.
So there are some, I will say, honorable mentions. So Vincent, he deals combat damage to an opponent. It deals that much damage to each other opponent if Vincent's power is greater than 7.
Yep, this deck's good
You
at
were one of those people in the last game that I played where like I was doing damage and I was burning the table, right? And somebody else was also burning us. So we were like very low in life. So I do like him. I also like Proud Warrior, which is a beast warrior. I will say I think he looks like a dog, but that's neither here nor there.
I cannot believe he's not a dog.
So he has other modified creatures you control have vigilance and trample, which the vigilance I think just helps a lot because now it's like, I'm going to attack you, but I also have big blockers, right? But honestly, my MVP has just been Tifa.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, she hits like a truck.
Yeah, so the additional combat phase, which I will also say I don't ever play additional combat phases. I actually kind of like don't care for them,
They're
right?
very powerful.
Like once I have an additional phase of something, I'm like, oh man, I got to do all this thinking.
I got to do all this again. I just did this.
But Tifa has just been like, I'm like, wow, I'm like, I actually kind of need her in my dinosaur deck, right? So
she'd be gross with dinosaurs.
Yeah, Tifa has been my favorite card in the deck.
I mean, that is a pretty cool move, and you've mentioned a couple of things that really were dynamic plays that made you keep the deck together. But the question that we've been asking everybody is, what is your deck's favorite move? Either a thing that it's already done or a thing that you're like, oh, I really want to get these two cards together.
It's really simple. It's just, I have a creature. I'm going to buff him up with some type of equipment, right? I like that. I will say, probably, I think the reason why I like that is because it's so outside of my normal play style. Also, just because of the additions that I've had in it, it's also made me really work through my turns, because the last game, because it was just so memorable, is I had Amy Rose, right? I had Cloud. I had the sword of, I'm pretty sure it's Truth and Justice. It's whatever the other guy that looks like Cloud is on. I think
That's how I feel about everyone in Final Fantasy.
Titus.
One of the blondes,
one of those,
you know.
Yeah. So that card says protection from white. Amy allows you to target attacking creature gets buffed up by her power, right? But she's white. Right. So I couldn't pick Cloud because it had protection from white. And then I also couldn't cast my Boros Charm
because
to give it double strike.
You're like, who put this sword in here?
And I was like, and that game, that was the only equipment I drew. And I was drawing each turn because Cloud was an equipped
he was big.
creature attacking, right? And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. It wasn't bad, but it was definitely holding me back.
You're like, how am I getting in my own way here?
Yeah, it definitely made me think, I'm like, should I keep Amy in here? Should I take her out? Right? I don't know. I think that was it just so happened that was the only equipment I drew that game, right? Which I think was wild, because I think it has at least 15 equipments.
It's got tons in there.
Yeah, because it's very I don't think I have more than 10 cards changed in here. And a lot of the Final Fantasy Secret Lair, a handful of them were equipments.
Right, worked really well in this precon.
So that was definitely, I think, very interesting.
Well, cool. I'm glad that this precon won you over. Your fourth Naya deck this year.
Naya deck.
Really mixing it up in 2025.
I think that really set the tone for me, where it's okay, I agree now. I am a Naya deck or a Naya player. And it's so funny because recently I asked some of my friends, be like, hey, what color do you think I play in Magic, right? Because for the longest time, I'm like, I think I like blue. I think I play blue. And it's like, no, you're green. Naya. And I'm like, all right, that's fair. I have two cat dog decks. So,
big, stompy, wide tokens. It's a lot of fun. Well, thanks for showing off, Cloud. And thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me on this camera debut today.
We'll see you next time. All right, and up next we have Sebastian Salazar joining us for the very first time on the podcast. Just introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey, I'm Sebastian. I am lead editor on podcasts these days, so I deal with this footage a lot, but I've never been on this side of the camera, so this is really fun.
He's here, 2D. What deck did you bring to talk about today?
I brought my favorite deck, I think of all time, which is Maralen of the Morn Song.
Okay.
So this commander is very strange, and it starts off very mean. So it's a elf wizard for 1 and 2 black, and it's a 2/3. But none of that really matters, because the first line of text is very mean. It says, players can't draw cards.
Knock this on the ground.
Yeah.
What?
So people hear that and they go, no, I don't want to play against this deck. But then there's this nice little second line of text that says, at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player loses 3 life. Okay, this still sucks, but searches his or her library for a card, puts it into his or her hand, then shuffles his or her library.
Okay.
So it essentially creates a game where every turn you get a demonic tutor.
Everybody does.
Everybody does.
This is a wild deck to play against. It's a very fun one. I think if people have played against Maralen before, they are used to Maralen lockout decks.
Yes, so I was going to say there is a disclaimer in this deck that is usually a big part of my Rule Zero conversation, which is there's this really fun card. The ops are out there. Opposition Agent is haunting this deck. So I essentially just ask that nobody plays Opposition Agent. I'm not playing it. You know, if you want to do a Maralen lockout bracket 4 deck, go nuts. But that is not what this deck does.
So what does this deck do?
So this deck was built around a card, and that card was actually not Maralen of the Morn Song. Maralen just seemed like an interesting way to get out this card and form an identity of our own, but the deck is built around the card Endless Whispers.
Okay, read this card for us.
For all of you that don't know Endless Whispers, it is 2 and 2 black for an enchantment and has the incredible line of text. Each creature has, when this creature is put into a graveyard from play, choose target opponent. That player puts this creature from that graveyard into play under his or her control at end of turn.
Okay, so Endless Whispers does this really weird thing where it says if creatures are here, they're basically staying.
They're staying.
And Maralen says whatever creature you want to have, it's here, and it's basically staying.
Oh, yeah. So the inception of this deck was my attempt at making a kind of hot potato feel deck. So it started with cards like Archfiend of the Dross, which is a creature that essentially you lose the game if you have it when it pops. So the idea is with Endless Whispers, you put these permanents on the board like Archfiend of the Dross, and then there's some cards that you would want to have, like a Bloodthirsty Conqueror or something, and then you pass them around and it becomes a very political game of not wanting to hold the hot potato when it pops and wanting to hold these very good permanents that I'm presenting.
The best, the sweet potatoes.
Walking this fine balance between I want to do crazy stuff, but I don't want you to do such crazy stuff that you win the game. So when to tutor removal, when to tutor value, it's this very interesting push and pull that makes me love this deck.
So how quickly do you search for Endless Whispers usually? Is it the first thing you tutor for?
Immediately.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So this is a bracket 3 deck, which I decided to make clear because I mean, there's not really much reason to run tutors in this deck with a tutor in the command zone, but to just make the bracket clear, I'm running the full suite, Demonic, Vampiric, and Seal. And all of those just find Endless Whispers faster, which enables me to play it before I play Maralen, so Maralen has a layer of protection, and this weird game we're playing is gonna happen.
Right. Okay. So playing against this deck, this is a very game warping deck.
Oh, yes.
And it's something that we've talked about a little bit because, like, some people are really game and some people are like, I just want to play my thing 100%. And I don't want to play your thing and I don't know what this is. Yeah. So how do you sell this deck?
So when I want to play this deck, which is every once in a blue moon, because this deck takes a lot of brain from both me and my opponents. So I sit down, I say, hey, are we okay if we play a really weird game? And the pitch goes something like, here's Maralen Mornsong, she makes you tutor, we're going to have to play this weird game, and I am going to be introducing a lot of board-wide effects that are affecting all of us. So this is not a deck that you can sit back and just do your own thing against. You're going to have to engage, and if you don't engage, you're probably going to have a pretty miserable time.
Right. This is early in the night deck.
Oh, yeah. This is not last game of the night. I have, I think, once played this last game of the night because I wanted to get a game in with it, and it hadn't felt right until then, and I ripped it, and it was miserable.
You're like, okay, all of us are tired and no one can get out of here.
Exactly.
What makes you want to build a deck like this?
So I have a commander philosophy that is something along the lines of, I think, 4 players sitting down, building up their own battle cruiser engines, not slinging any removal, and then somebody casting Craterhoof is really boring. Sorry, it's just me. It's fine if you like that. It's all good. It's just not what I like.
Sure.
So most of my commander decks, and this one I think is the prime example, I like to introduce play patterns to the game that force you to interact with the board and your opponents and not just sit back and passively build up an army that will eventually be big enough to kill everyone. And this deck, frankly, just makes for some really big, splashy plays.
It does.
I died last night to someone playing the Flipwalker Sorin and looping Beacon of Immortality because it shuffles itself back in, so they just retutored it and cast it again. So I think they had 500 life at the end of that.
The backside of Sorin lets you deal damage equal to the amount of life you've gained.
Oh, luckily, I run some anti-life gain things in this deck. But
that's the thing is, if everybody has a tutor, they're going to be able to stop what you're doing. And it creates a really interesting dynamic for any deck where you're like, what is the thing I would tutor for right now? What is, if I was only going to draw one card this turn, what card would I want it to be? And it is interesting because a lot of decks are built around card draw engines. And if the engines are bad, you're like, interesting. What do I do now?
Yeah, I think of it almost as like a cool check for your deck, because if the coolest thing my deck did is draw cards, it's probably kind of boring. So it's basically supercharging all the decks to the table, saying, I'm sorry, your heuristic study actually is really bad.
Yeah.
So what is your deck actually doing? Show me how cool it is.
Right. Yeah.
And if they don't have a great answer to that, that makes for some not so fun games. But usually when I announce I'm playing this deck, people go, oh, I want to see this deck I have do this thing.
Right.
And
yeah.
so they whip it out to do whatever that cool thing is, which is just always super fun to see too, because I get to see a lot of really weird decks with this.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, I love any deck that you sit down and you're like, all right, are we going to be patient with each other? I've got a mono red stickers deck. I know what it means to be the weird villain at the deck.
I'm
at
sure
the
your
table.
stickers deck would love this deck. I
Oh
think
my
that
God.
would be a pretty good matchup for you.
Okay, what is your favorite card in the deck? What's the one that you would like show off?
This is highly controversial because I think this is objectively one of the least fun Magic cards of all time.
Okay.
But in this deck, it becomes incredibly fun. So stick with me on this. It is Hirobi Death's Wail.
Okay, yes.
So I once built this as a commander deck. Huge mistake. Don't do that. Don't do it. It's legendary, but just ignore that line of text. It doesn't matter. It is 2 and 2 black for a 4/4 flying spirit. And it has the incredible line of text. Whenever a creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, destroy that creature.
Yeah.
So it basically makes any equipment kill your own creatures. It makes anything that targets a creature instantly kills it.
It's a real mess with Endless Whispers on the board.
With Endless Whispers on the board, it's awesome. Because then I play something like a Hex Parasite where I can just pay 2 life to free target something, and suddenly I have this incredible removal engine, but it's not really a removal engine because it's just trading the creatures around.
It's a redistribution engine.
And then someone kills one part of that, and then they have the hex bug, and I'm screwed. So it creates very weird play patterns where pretty much anything I'm committing to the board can be used as this incredible silver bullet against me.
Right.
Which is kind of the inception of the deck, is I didn't want a Maralen Lockout deck with Opposition Agent. I wanted this open play space where you can do what your heart desires, and if you desire to screw me over, congrats. You can do that.
All right, before we go, what is your favorite thing that the deck can do or has done?
So, my favorite thing this deck can do is a little complicated, but I'll summarize it.
Okay.
It is the combination of 2 cards, namely Hellcarver Demon and Doomsday.
Okay.
So, Doomsday,
that's a wild list of cards.
Doomsday, not particularly commander playable, usually.
Yeah.
It's usually used in 60-card formats to crazy combo off, which I guess is kind of what this deck is doing. But
it can be used in 100-card formats to crazy combo off.
Basically, the way this combo works is Hellcarver Demon says, when it deals combat damage to a player, you sacrifice all other permanents you control, discard your hand, and exile the top 6 cards, and you can play them for free. Doomsday says, search your library and graveyard for 5 cards and exile the rest.
Yep.
Put the chosen cards in any order and you lose half your life.
Right.
So if I pull off this combo, I lose half my life, sacrifice all of my permanents, and exile my library.
But get specifically 5 cards
but I
for
get
free.
specifically 5 cards, and 2 of those 5 cards will always be Doomsday Excruciator.
Perfect,
Which will exile all but the bottom 6 of everyone's libraries. And Mirror of Fate.
Okay, this one I don't know. I love that you Doomsday for Doomsday Excruciator, by the way.
It's the Doomsday.
That's a beautiful
It's so much
combo.
fun.
Yeah.
But Mirror of Fate's a really weird card that you have no reason to play unless you're doing this. It's 5 mana for an artifact. Tap, sacrifice Mirror of Fate. Choose up to 7 face-up exiled cards you own. Exile all the cards from your library and put those cards on top in any order.
Okay.
So all of my library, which I've now exiled with Doomsday, is my new hand. Which is just kind of fun.
This deck is very high on the list of decks that if I picked up to pilot, I would have no idea what I'm doing with it.
It's a nightmare.
And my partner likes to build decks like this, so it's a pretty long list. But it is, I think, one of the most iconic decks in the office. You said recently that you did a major overhaul on this deck.
I did. So I once built this deck on a budget, and it was my attempt to play a discard deck that didn't feel like crap to play against. Spoiler alert, discard always feels like crap to play against.
Still does, yeah.
So that's what it started out as last year when I first built it, and I had some very salty games, rightfully so. No offense to anyone who got salty about that deck. That deck was terrible.
Yeah.
But it morphed into this beautiful thing that is now my favorite deck to play, even if I get to do it oh so rarely.
That's very cool. Well, Thank you for showing her off. I'm sure everybody gets to peruse the deck list. You can be as confused as we are, but hopefully this gave you a taste.
Oh, yeah. I'm not putting any tags on it, so you're going to have to figure it out.
Good luck. All right. Up next, we've got Rachel Kendra joining us for the very first time.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Kendra, the other Rachel at the Command Zone.
There's two of us.
There's two. I'm an editor here. I used to cut this show, but now I work primarily on Extra Turns.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you saw our recent episode with Gavin Verhey and Salubrious Snail, I did the bulk of the editing on that one, and I'm very proud of it. It turned out really well.
It did turn out really well. I loved that episode.
Yeah.
Well, today we're talking about the favorite decks that we built this year, and you have brought a very cool one.
Yes, I've brought Y'shtola, Knights Blessed, one of 3 commanders that I built from Final Fantasy. Big fan of that set. But this is my favorite of the 3 that I built.
Read Y'shtola for us, for those who haven't had the pleasure.
So Y'shtola is 1 and Esper colors for a 2/4 Cat Warlock with Vigilance. At the beginning of each end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you draw a card. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, Y'shtola deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about Y'shtola on the channel because she's the face commander of a very popular precon.
Yes.
But you build Y'shtola in a slightly different way. I haven't seen Y'shtola built exactly this way before. Can you tell us roughly what your 99 looks like?
Yes. Well, I started from the precon and then I ripped out about half the cards because the precon is very much a control deck. I turned it into a straight up burn deck.
Esper burn,
but I used clones to do it. So instead of just getting 1 trigger off of Y'shtola, we're getting multiple triggers per turn. So I found 9 cards that fit in this deck that create non-legendary copies of Y'shtola. Not the easiest thing in the world to do, but there's actually plenty of support these days.
We're getting better and better at it.
I think there's even a couple in Spider-Man that will do the same thing.
It's always going to get stronger in that way. I mean, making just 1 copy of Y'shtola is really powerful because now anytime you cast a non-creature spell with 3 mana or more, they both trigger, they both deal the amount of damage to check the box so you can draw cards on end step, right?
Exactly, yeah. When you've got 2, they will both trigger and you'll draw 2 cards at the end step. If you've got 3 copies of Y'shtola, then you draw 3 cards. It gets out of hand pretty quickly.
Seems pretty good. What drew you to this commander in particular?
I like commanders that sort of get more interesting when you read them a little bit more carefully, because I think Y'shtola has a pretty clear plan written on the card. She deals 2 damage to each opponent when you cast non-creature spells, and then she's got 2 power and vigilance. So the suggestion feels like you swing in with her to deal the extra 2 damage. But crucially, her first line of text says that when a player loses life, it doesn't have to be your opponent's. So I filled this deck with lots of ways to do damage to me. I've got 3 talismans, 3 pain lands, 3 shock lands, 3 fetch lands, as well as a number of spells that I can pay life as an additional cost or as an alternate cost. And it pretty much ensures that even if I don't have a way to get 4 damage on somebody else, I can probably do it to myself.
Yeah, I love that you can use the life as a resource and then give you additional resources with that card draw on end step.
Yeah.
So this is a very scary commander. It closes the game out. It draws the cards that you need to keep pushing through the late game. And there's so many ways that you can sort of follow it down that rabbit hole. But what is your favorite card in the deck? What's the one that you're like, okay, now I'm really excited about how the deck is working?
I have, my favorite card, I think overall, the one that is the most fun to draw and to cast is it's one from the precon actually. It's Eye of Nidhogg, which is an aura. When you enchant a creature, an enemy's creature hopefully, it turns that creature into a 4/2 flying dragon that's goaded. So it sort of ensures that you get that 4 damage on an opponent on somebody else's turn to draw an additional card.
Very clever design from the designers on that one.
It really is. And it sort of fits the burn model, but definitely fits the original control plan. It's very fun. And the card would be great even if it didn't have its last line of text, which says that when it's put into a graveyard, it is returned to your hand. So you get to just do it again.
That's very fun. You're like, I've solved the problem. Like, have you? casted, trigger my 2 Y'shtolas, draw even more cards, and we're still in Dragon City.
Yeah. The other fun card that I like is, I think, the most interesting way to make copies of Y'shtola, because I've managed to find a lot in blue, but eventually you run out. And one of the methods that I decided to use is Ratadrabic of Urborg.
Oh, that's fun. He makes non-legendary copies.
He makes non-legendary zombie copies of legendary creatures. The catch is that Y'shtola has to die in order for that to happen.
Right.
But I have ways of ensuring that. There's a couple, like I put a high market in specifically for that purpose. It also serves as a little bit of protection in case I get into the situation where somebody tries to exile Y'shtola and I wouldn't get the trigger. I can sack her to high market first and get the copy that way.
That's very fun. That's a neat trick. It's funny because like Ratadrabic in the 99 is something I've done before and I completely forget about it in decks like this one. I forgot to ask you earlier, but what bracket level would you consider this deck? Because it is like a pre-con, like a modified pre-con, but you swapped out so many cards now that it's in new air, it feels like.
I would still say that it's a bracket 2. It's got a more aggressive game plan, but it's not necessarily a whole lot faster than a pre-con. It does still take a while to get there. I have a fairly normal amount of ramp, so I'm not like, Y'shtola is a 4-mana commander. I'm not getting her out on turn 2. She's usually coming out on turn 4, turn 3 if I'm lucky. And then there are pieces that need to get put in place, and I have to be able to cast other spells.
Incremental, it's telegraphed. People know how they're going to die in this deck.
Yes.
If they are. You mentioned that this deck isn't very good at closing the game out.
No, I don't win with her very often because right around the mid-game, she becomes very scary. And she becomes scary to players in different ways. So if I'm playing against newer folks, they get scared of all the burn damage that they're taking. More seasoned players will get scared of all the card draw because I really leaned into card draw on this one. So she becomes a monster where that is concerned. There's, Curiosity and Ophidian Eye and Tandem Lookout. So I'll draw 3 cards every time I cast a non-creature spell. Delny is also in the deck to double up on triggers. There are times when I can get up to drawing 6 to 10 cards per turn rotation. So seasoned players see that and they're like, we can't let that
This cannot continue.
No.
This cannot continue. You mentioned a couple of neat moves, but is there one in particular that you're like, this is the deck at its coolest?
I mean, the most fun is just seeing people's reactions when I'm like, I'm going to cast a Spark Double, and it comes in as a copy of Y'shtola, and people are like,
You thought one was a problem.
You thought one was a problem, and then, here's Sakashima the Imposter for another one, and here's Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, and there's a few others.
And now Chameleon from, the list is growing. This is a very cool deck. I think a lot of people really were drawn in by Y'shtola, and I haven't really seen the leaning into the clone thing. So if you like Y'shtola, and you're trying to find a new deck list, make sure you check this one out. The link to all of the deck lists in this episode are going to be in the description below. So if you want to get building, check this one out.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Kendra.
My pleasure.
Bye. Okay, that is the team. There's a huge amount of really cool creative decks, familiar commanders in different builds.
Yeah, I love hearing about all the decks that our team is putting together. We've got a big, nice collection of Magic players here, as you might imagine, constantly brewing. So very cool to hear.
Yeah, and we've been building some decks this year as well. So we didn't want to leave you in suspense. We're going to talk about our favorite builds from 2025 as well. Josh, do you want to start with yours?
Sure. My favorite deck that I've built this year is my Teval, the Balanced Scale deck. Now, this is, I'll read Teval real quick. It's 1 and Sultai, so 1 black, green, blue for a 4/4 flying Spirit Dragon, legendary, of course. Whenever Teval attacks, mill 3 cards, then you may return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. And then it says, whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. And of course, that first ability where you get the land from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped is a card leaving your graveyard, so we'll make that zombie. This Teval deck, the plan's pretty simple. You fill your graveyard, then you recur things and remove things from your graveyard, and you make zombies and profit. The cornerstones of the deck are fetch lands. You really,
For sure.
you really want to get a fetch land before you get Teval out or as you're getting Teval out, so you guarantee you have that land in your graveyard. Obviously, you're going to mill 3, but in case you don't hit a land, you don't really want to whiff. It's very powerful because Teval is ramping you when it does its thing, and also making the zombie, which is not tapped and will be a blocker for you. So it is a value commander. The other cornerstones are things that mill you, like Deranged Assistant Milliken. That is, those are great because they ramp you into Teval a little bit faster, but also are milling you the entire course of the game.
Milliken, very underrated card.
I mean, Milliken, I find just putting in like
all the time,
tons of decks, even decks that aren't like strictly mill focused. It's like, well, would I rather just have a card in my graveyard? Most of the time, yes, I would. Looters are also really, really good. We've been talking about looters. I feel like if you took the bar graph of our podcast and amount we talked about looters in the early days, the bar graph is going like this, or maybe even like this.
It's crazy.
Yeah, looters have just become so good, and there are so many 2-mana looters, especially in blue. Red's getting a lot of rummagers, which is great. And looting is, again, doing the Milliken thing, but also kind of drawing you a card as it does it. Allows you to filter your hand card selection. And this is, obviously, you want things in graveyards, so just doing triple duty. So Kitza, Ledger Shredder, that kind of stuff.
Put the right cards in your hand and the right ones in the graveyard.
Exactly. And then you want recursion and graveyard removal stuff. So Tortured Existence, one of the best cards in the deck, Deathrite Shaman, those kind of stuff. You notice all this stuff is like 1 and 2 drops too. So you get your plan online like really fast. And then you want the payoff synergies, other things that say when things leave your graveyard do stuff. So Teval's Judgment is really good. Kishla Skimmer is another really good card.
Kishla Skimmer is really fun.
Yeah. So you get these engine loops where you're like, just putting stuff in your graveyard, recurring it out, getting a thing, getting that extra zombie, getting some extra lands in a play, and before you know it, you kind of just have too many resources for your opponents to deal with. Pet card. This one, most of my decks don't have as many pet cards maybe as Rachel's do. I like to be on plan. But Master of Death was a card that I really like and don't play a lot in other decks.
Black one?
Yeah, that allows you
cool.
to choose to bring it back if it's in your graveyard. So with looters, it's just like a thing that's leaving your graveyard and coming back to your hand, and then you loot it away again, leaves your graveyard, comes back to your hand, and you
it's
just
like
kind
squee.
Yeah, exactly. You just kind of get that free value every single turn. So it's basically like with a looter, it's like a draw card, make a zombie for no mana, which is very powerful. How the deck wins is how most token decks win, Crater Hoof or some mass pump effect on all your zombies. It does have a couple of like aristocrats pieces just in case attacking is hard with a propaganda or something like that. Just a way to be like, okay, well, if I can't get in and attack at you, there's a couple of outs to like play this, sack everything, maybe get you that way. But it doesn't have, it's not as good at doing that as a straight aristocrats deck because it doesn't have like as many like recursion pieces as far as like sack this and then it comes back type of stuff. And then it can just outvalue. And I feel like most of my decks can do this, and this is no different, where it's just like, yeah, the plan is Crater Hoof or whatever, but a lot of it is just like constantly have enough stuff, and you're using resources to kill the stuff, but because I'm just incidentally getting more stuff as I continue to draw cards and whatever, it's just like this endless wave of stuff where you're just like, I just don't have a, board wipe. I have a million things in a second, and you're still rebuilding, attack you for a little bit, and you're like, even if you have another board wipe, that's just going to happen again.
Yeah.
And then as far as brackets, it's technically a bracket 3 deck, and I believe it's bracket 3 in power level. It has 2 game changers, Field of the Dead, and Crop Rotation. You could take those 2 out. They're obviously just both really good in the deck because it is sort of, it's not a landfall deck, but the main thing it's doing is recurring lands. Like that's what's on the card.
Yeah, I would still, even without those game changers, I would still call it probably in a 3.
100%.
It's very resilient. It's very difficult to deal with, and it can be quite explosive, where it's like you rebuild really, really fast, and it can close the door faster than a lot of bracket 2 decks can like.
Absolutely. I think we've said this many times on the show, but just to reiterate, like how many game changers you have is not the only thing that determines its power level. But it's sort of in this place, and I think a lot of my decks tend to sit where like, it's like Miss Bumbleflower, which is technically a 2 as far as game changers, but really is a 3 and can even play all the way up till 4s. And I think,
it's very disruptive and resilient.
A really strong deck. And I think Teval's in that similar place. And it's like, I could take out the game changers and it would still be a 3. So it's like, I'll just play a couple game changers.
Yeah,
I don't have 3. I don't have Cyclonic Rift. I don't have some of the better ones, but it's just like also Crop Rotation and Field of the Dead just are thematic to what the deck is doing, so they felt okay to put in. And between you and me, I don't think Crop Rotation probably is worthy of being a game changer,
probably
but
not.
Probably neither of Field of the Dead. But whatever, it's fine. I think this deck is a 3 no matter what. So hey, the upside of that is like I can play a couple of game changers and not worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This deck is really sweet. I mean, I have Sidisi, which is Teval's older sister, and they do play in slightly different ways, which is really interesting.
Yeah, there's similar strategies, but they don't play a lot of the same cards.
Yeah, there's some crossover, but you do so much more like looting and discarding and that kind of stuff, where Sidisi is obviously just turbo mill. So it's cool to see how two commanders that looked very similar at the beginning of the year, and everybody was like, oh, it's another Sidisi, actually have very different 99s and feel very different to play against.
Yeah, which is a cool thing about Magic. It's that they're constantly able to just sort of find these new little curveballs that change it enough where it's like, yeah, they look a lot alike, but then you compare the deck list and there's probably only like 10 to 12 cards overlap.
Yeah.
Not counting lands.
There's a lot of land overlap.
They're both so tight. How about you, Rachel? I know you're building a lot of decks recently.
Yeah.
So you have to choose one here.
I did have to pick one, and it's one that is honestly I'm still working on, but it's the one I'm most excited about and has like sort of unlocked a couple of different cards for me that I've been curious about for a long time. So in 2025, my favorite deck that I've built is Captain Sisay.
Oh yeah,
so a classic. This one, you can see how old it is, but I have the Secret Lair version. This is a commander I've liked for a really long time, but Captain Sisay used to be this kind of boogeyman, like in Commander, where I feel like when you put it in the command zone, people were just like, oh, I know what's in it. It's mostly stacks and it's going to end with an Elvish Norn.
Right.
But I've always liked the commander as just sort of like a toolboxy type of card, and it's very powerful. So I never got the opportunity to build it because every time I went to sit down, it just sort of became like a good stuff pile. And then I got the idea earlier this year to build it around a secret commander. And the secret commander is also very powerful. It's Agatha's Soul Cauldron.
Yeah.
So Captain Sisay helps find the Soul Cauldron. She says, search your library for a legendary card, reveal that card, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. And then Agatha's Soul Cauldron, for those who don't play Standard, is a 2-mana legendary artifact. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures you control. Creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Tap, exile target card from your graveyard. When a creature card is exiled this way, put a counter on target creature you control, but also gives all the creatures with counters that ability.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, green-white legends with activated abilities is a neat restriction and does open up Agatha's Soul Cauldron, which is this really cool card that can do all kinds of really busted weird stuff.
Yeah.
Not to mention getting Captain Sisay under the Soul Cauldron is completely bananas.
Give everything the ability to go find a legendary.
Oh my gosh. It was like...
That's a little risky though, right?
It's definitely risky because if they remove the Soul Cauldron, you're toast. The deck is very powerful. If you have Soul Cauldron and you have something under it, you can do a lot of stuff, so it expects the Soul Cauldron to get removed.
Right.
That's one of the big things about playing against it is like, it looks like a silly deck because it's doing silly things. I've got a couple of silly activated abilities that go under there, but they're very powerful. Just because you haven't heard of Patron of the Orochi does not mean you should let me have an Agatha Soul Cauldron with this ability. It says untap all forests, everyone's, and all green creatures. Play this ability only once each turn.
Yeah, that doesn't sound silly to me at all. It says untap all creatures.
All creatures.
Yeah.
All your stuff with a Sisay over and over again.
Oh, and by the way, the stuff has these abilities that Agatha Soul Cauldron gave it. Yeah.
Oh, and Sisay can go search for Yavimaya that untaps all of your lands repeatedly. Like, the deck can do some really wild stuff and puts together these board states that are like, well, whatever I'm doing it really well. The biggest issue is that I found with it so far is it does a lot of cool things, and it takes a long time to sort of like close out the game, where it's like, yeah, I can make a ton of mana, but I didn't really want like win the game buttons, and not a lot of those exist in Sultai anyway. So assembling a win condition with it can take a little while.
You mean Selesnya?
Selesnya, yeah. Your deck was Sultai. Sultai's easy to win. Selesnya is like, okay, you have to go so far over the top. So I've really focused on doing some kind of dumb stuff with it and some like really powerful, cool stuff with it rather than rushing to zero or to a win. Like, my favorite trick that the deck has done is I had Yes Man under the Soul Cauldron.
Okay.
Yes Man's from Fallout. He has an ability that says target opponent gains control of Yes Man. When they do, you draw 2 cards and put a quest counter on it. So I can give away my board and draw 2 cards for each one I gave away. And then I use the Eternal Wanderer, which has a minus ability that says, for each player, choose a creature that player controls. Each player sacrifices all creatures they control that aren't chosen this way. So it's like, okay, you can keep all of mine, and then I'll go search for Tristani and play Tristani and gain control of all my stuff again.
Right. That's funny.
It's a very complicated one-sided board wipe.
A lot of pieces to one-sided board wipe.
But it's cool! So I've been having a lot of fun messing around with it, and I look forward to seeing like what the future of the deck looks like.
Yeah, I haven't played against it yet, but I've seen it. You played a couple of times.
Yeah.
It's always doing like crazy stuff. I mean, I think one of the powers of the deck is like Sisay is the auto remove, but when you get against the Soul Cauldron out, it's like crap. Now I have to remove that, but the Sisay is still going to be around.
It does spread your resources out.
It puts a conundrum upon your opponents of like, okay, well, I stopped that, but that doesn't really stop her. So now, and then Sisay can probably find something that gets the Soul Cauldron back, and even if you don't, you're still got this active like, auto tutoring with a lot of untappers going on. So yeah,
it's very powerful. I would call it an easy bracket 3 for sure. It's just really powerful card quality, a powerful commander, and it's the synergy is really tight on it.
Yeah, I think the amount of tutoring alone would make it by the numbers kind of a 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's one of many, many decks that I built this year. I even got some more that are up on blocks.
Yeah, you said you've built like 5 this year?
I built 5 for like some amount of content and personal use, and that's not even including some of the game nights decks. So I think like for me to play, I've built like maybe 7 or 8 decks this year.
Wow.
At least one
Almost
a month.
one per month.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. And we're going to go into that in just a minute. But if you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoyed hearing about all of our personal decks and the decks that we've really been working on, maybe you want to buy one, you can support the show and go to cardkingdom.com/command. The deck that I'm most jealous of in this episode is Jamie's Mono Blue Gogo deck is completely bananas. And if you want to just buy that deck list, you can copy it directly from ARCHIDEKT. You can paste it into Card Kingdom, and it pulls up this screen that has every single card that they have in stock, and you get to pick the version and the condition and the foiling all on the same page. So
it makes it super easy.
It's so easy. It's so fast. And then you just hit buy and it shows up. They put it in a plastic box. They give you a little packing peanut so they don't rattle around. The cards that show up are like, they're TCG fans, so they know what it means to get
They
a
wrap
card
it in
shipped
plastic
safely.
and tape it too. And of course, once you get those cards, you want to keep everything protected. Once it's out of the protective packaging that Card Kingdom gives it to you, and in the best place, or the game accessories brand that we trust our own collections to here at the Command Zone is Ultra Pro. If you go to ultrapro.com/command, they have all the stuff you're looking for: playmats, deck boxes, sleeves, Apex sleeves. I keep saying this, but I'm slowly converting all of my decks. And I did that episode recently, all 26 of my decks. And I think there's like 5 or 6 that are not in Apex sleeves. And I'm like, really need to change them over, because every time I pick up one of those decks and start to shuffle it, I'm like, oh, I need the Apex.
What is this?
Yeah, what's going on? The other thing about ultrapro.com/command is they often have tons of deals, discounts. They're trying to move inventory out to get new stuff in sometimes, and you can just find crazy like 50, even more % off on stuff. So I just like to check it pretty often. It's like you recently got the binders or whatever. It's
I bought
often,
a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, often you just see a thing and you're like, yeah, I could use some more binders, and because they're discounted so much, I'm just going to get them now. So again, ultrapro.com/command.
All right. Before we go, I wanted to talk about some of the decks that are just up on blocks that are in the workshop right now. We're always building something here. There's always new cards coming through, new ideas in the office.
There's always new content on the horizon. My God. The one that is like the least. I have one that's like done, and I'm still have some changes that I need to make. I built Pelucranos Reborn. I'm in a Selesnya era. Yeah. You're in your Selesnya phase.
This is it's whenever a non-token Hydra dies, it splits and gives you 2 3/3s. So it uses like dewdrop cures and like 1 mana reanimation effects to bring back Hydras for 0, and then they die and burst into 2 3/3s.
Sort of quote unquote free 3/3s.
Free for 3/3s. Yeah, it's really fun, and I'm not sure how long it's going to stick around because it's really fun to play, but it's like very defensive, so it can be a little frustrating to play against.
It's interesting fun because this deck and the Captain Sisay deck, these are cards that have been around for quite a while.
Yeah.
What's caused you to? Because I find when I'm building decks, and I think probably most people out there, I'm building around a new thing because it comes across sort of grabs our attention, and what's causing you to go back into like the pantheon of past commanders and look at those as a place to build? Do you have like a certain concept and you're like, I'm looking for something to fit this concept, or are you just like clicking around old commanders and being like, that one's cool?
I mean, that also, but I think, like, in Sisay's case specifically, I really liked Sisay and I really liked Agatha Soul Cauldron, and I never really put 2 and 2 together. Maybe it was the Vivi decks that were popping off where I was like, oh my gosh, I could combine these 2 things and do something really cool with them. So that was an idea that just sort of was like a light bulb moment. The Pelucranos one is I liked when it came out, but I think it was just they keep printing these like 3-mana reanimate, some amount of 3 things, and it felt like the redundancy was there that I really wanted to try it out again. I don't know exactly what triggered it. Oh, this one was for an event. I needed a Phyrexian commander, and I was like, you know what? I always liked this one, and I bet I could put it together with stuff in the house. And it's been really fun. So that was triggered by a specific event.
Gotcha. So it's not like a philosophical thing. These are just specific to these 2 things.
Yeah, most of the stuff I built this year are recent. Like I built Sabsunin this year, and that was after Ether Drift. I built Gogo after Final Fantasy. I built Ellie and Alan for a budget episode. That's a little bit more of a throwback. Yeah, those are usually impetuses or triggered by some sort of like...
Yeah, content makes sense, and then new stuff makes sense. But the other 2, I find it interesting that
Sisay was
definitely far in the
definitely
past for a couple of those.
Very far, very, very far.
Which I think is great. I mean, I think people probably don't do that often enough. There's been so many like good commanders printed over the years, and there's undoubtedly like a lot from, the past that just never caught your attention or you don't even know existed. So
it also makes it feel a little bit fresher, I guess. Like everyone around you is building stuff from Spider-Man and you're like, you know what I built? Captain Sisay. And you're like, wait, that old one? You're like, yeah. It makes you feel a little bit more like a special snowflake.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a hipster inside of all of us that gets to shine sometimes. I'm building, I can't talk about it, but actually this card, the card I'm building has been spoiled, so I can talk about it a little because we're getting ready to film the last Airbender episode of Game Nights. We're going to film that right after Atlanta. And I'm building the Katara the Fearless deck, which is allied Harmonicon, I guess. Yeah. It's when allies, a triggered ability of an ally triggers a second time or an additional time. Which I was thinking of Panharmonicon, but there's been so few allies. There just aren't that many at all. The interesting thing about it has been you're actually looking for things that give allies abilities that trigger. Sure. So, you're looking for anything that's an enchantment, an aura, another creature that says creatures you control have, and then something in quotation marks that's like when it deals combat damage, draw a card, or sometimes it says creatures you control have mentor or myriad, anything that gives them myriad, right? Because that's a triggered ability. That's fun. So ward is really good, obviously, because ward will trigger an additional time. But I was thinking of it at first, I was like, I'll just get a bunch of ETBs. And then I was like, ran through all the allies, and there's literally less than 15 of them that have an ETB, way less. So yeah, that was kind of fun where I kind of got in the weeds and I was like, oh, the original idea is not going to work. Like I'll have some of that. Yeah, but
I think we're used to allies being 5-color piles. So it's cool to see an ally commander that restricts you to 3.
Yeah, that's the thing is once you get down to it is Bant, then all of a sudden you don't have the red and the black allies, and there's actually quite a bunch of those that are good and you would wish you could run. And so, which I found to be fun. Like Herd Heirloom.
Oh, yeah.
Insane.
Herd Heirloom is busted, yeah.
Yeah, because the second ability is what you're going for. It gives the ability to the creature so when it hits, it'll draw 2 with Katara the Fearless out. So, it ends up having a lot of cards that you don't see in other decks, which I always find kind of cool. Because originally I was like, Panharmonicon, New Elish Norn, normal stuff. And then I was like, that stuff's actually not that good. There's not enough ETB stuff for that stuff to be good. Soul Herder or whatever. It's like originally in the original list, I just assumed all that stuff's going in. And then I was like, nope, it's all got to come out. There's not enough ETB. I need more weird stuff, I guess.
Yeah, you got to get a little creative with it. I love that.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see how it does in the actual episode.
Cool stuff.
I hope it at least shows its potential. But I'm excited about it.
Cool stuff coming down the pipeline. We're still figuring out a few things. But we hope you enjoyed this episode. It was a little bit loose, a little bit of a get to know you. Leave in a comment below with what deck that you liked the most. Yeah.
Yeah, or you could comment about what other questions we could ask the team that you'd be interested in hearing.
Yeah, team episodes are so fun.
Yeah, it's cool to get like 10 different perspectives on something. And if there's any question that you wish you could ask 10 random Magic players and hear the answer, we can help you with that. So just tell us what you think the question should be.
All right. Before we go, we got to say thank you to our amazing team here at the Command Zone. You met some of them, most of them, but we have to say thank you because they make these episodes possible. So thank you to Sebastian, Salazar, are Karina Cruz, Gaurav Galati, Jamie Block, Jordan Pridgen, Jake Boss, Beky Bell, Rachel Kendra, Eric Lem, Manson Lung, Josh Murphy, Evan Limburger, Sam Waldo, and of course, Jimmy Wong. We'll see y'all next time.
Peace.
Bye.